Good morning. If you have your Bibles, turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 1. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. That is where we'll be for the majority of this morning. We are talking about the God of all comfort, the Father of compassion. And one of the reasons I really wanted to do this sermon on today, it's the second Sunday of the month, which means we have the song and sermon service kind of interconnected. And I think one of the greatest comforts that I have in my life is when we get to sing together and praise God and get to speak to each other through these songs. And so we have several songs today, and so I hope that you will feel God's comfort in your life, no matter what you're going through those songs. If you will, let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 1. It's on the screen, but you're welcome to look at your Bibles as well. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Starting in verse 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, starting in verse 3. Praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion, the God of all comfort, who comforts us in our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. For just as we share abundantly we are in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. If we are distressed, it is for your comfort and salvation. If we are comforted, it is for your comfort, which produces in you patient endurance of the same sufferings we suffer. And our hope for you is firm, because we know that just as you share in our sufferings, so also you share in our comfort. We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we had experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt that we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. He has delivered us from such deadly peril, and he will deliver us again. On him we have set our hope, that he will continue to deliver us, as you help us by your prayers. The many will give thanks on our behalf for the gracious favor granted us in our answer to prayers of men. If you notice one word that stood out during this, well, that's not supposed to be there. During this passage, it is the word comfort. Over and over again, he mentions comfort. And he starts by saying the Father of compassion, or some versions say the Father of mercies, and the God of all comfort. If you look throughout the Bible, God is not actually called the Father of many characteristics or attributes. He's called the Father of the Lord Jesus Christ, as he is here, and he's called the Father of Israel, but not very often could I find that he is called the Father of righteousness or the Father of sanctification or different characteristics like that. But here Paul calls God the Father of comfort, the Father of compassion and mercy, and the God of all comfort. That he is someone who comforts his people. And this only comes about because of the second word that appears over and over again in this section, which is suffering or troubles or trouble. That God is a God of comfort and the Father of mercies, the Father of compassion. He is not the Father of happiness and bliss. He doesn't wipe away everything in your life and make your life just full of everything that is good, where you never go through any trials or tribulations. But he is the Father that will be there with you when you go through those trials and tribulations. When you go through sufferings, when you go through troubles, he is the one that comforts you. And what I think Paul outlines here is, of course, he points out the comfort and how God is a comfort for our lives when we endure much suffering. But what he really shows, I believe, in these verses is what that suffering and then God comforting us really accomplishes. And I believe there's 4 things in these verses that is accomplished through our suffering and the comfort that God gives us. We'll look at the first on this lesson, the second and the next, and the last 2 and the last one. If you see, the first thing that I believe is accomplished when we endure suffering and when we go through hardships and then God comforts us is that we can comfort those who go through the same thing we have went through. This is a really cool thing that God has done with our world, that God is training us through our trials, through the things that we endure, through our hardships, through our suffering. He kind of makes us go through a spiritual boot camp to train us to become the high priest of the world, or the priest of the world, and that we can become the ministers of the world. I think this is what Paul is saying in verse 6 when he says, if we are distressed, it is for your comfort and salvation. Whatever we go through, it is there so when we are with you, we can comfort you because we went through something similar. Many of our number, many of you have went through many things in your life. You went through many trials, you went through many struggles. You are currently going through many trials and struggles in your life. Many of you, fairly recently in our number, have taken care of your parents. And you've watched the people that you have looked up to when you were a child, and now you've taken care of them for a number of years. And as they slowly lose their abilities, their physical abilities, their mental abilities, and you've cared for them, and some of you have even watched them pass away. And that is a struggle. That is hard. And I have not went through that. And so when someone comes in or one of you is going through that, I may not know everything that I'm supposed to say. I may not know exactly what you're going through. But many of our number do. Daryl does. Tim has recently went through that. They understand. And it's through that time of heartache, they can now comfort you when you're going through that. Many of our number are taking care of spouses or have taken care of spouses who went through immense difficulties, who went through all kinds of physical, either cancer or MS or Parkinson's or you name it, or just physical, stuff stops working. Your mind stops working, your physical attributes stop working, and you've taken care of that spouse for years. And many of you have also lost that spouse. And I have not went through that. Many of you have not went through that. But those that have, when someone comes in here and they get that diagnosis that their spouse has Parkinson's or MS or cancer, you know what they're going to go through, and you can offer them comfort like no one else can. And it is all kinds of problems, not just related to taking care of others, but it could be financial problems. You had a time in your life where your savings had been wiped out, some big thing had happened, you exhausted everything, and you didn't know where to turn. The balance sheet did not add up. And you went through that. And I guarantee other people will go through that. And you could be there for them and comfort them. We go through stuff in our life. God, I think, puts us through stuff in our life so that we can help others who go through similar things in our life. And not just so that we can comfort those that are our brothers and sisters in Christ, those that are in this building, but also so we can be the ministers of the world. That when we go out of this building and it's your friend, it's your neighbor, it's your colleague, it's someone that is not a Christian, but that you know, and you hear they're going through something very similar to what you went through. And they don't have any hope. Because how much harder, whatever it would be, a physical attribute, taking care of someone, whatever that may be, how much harder would that have been if you didn't have Christ in your life? If you didn't know there was a hope of heaven, if you didn't know there was a great thing at the end of all of this. And you can go to that person who has no hope, that's not a Christian, that does not know that Christ is there and that He is there for you and the God of all comfort. And you can say, I've been through the same thing you do. And I may not understand everything you're going through, but I know a little bit. And this is how I got through it. Is Christ was there for me. I turned to the Father of all compassion, the God of all comfort. And the great thing is we're not alone. We can introduce others to our great high priest, who the Hebrew writer says is able to empathize with our weaknesses, who went through everything that we went through. That he can, when we are going through stuff, he can say, yeah, I went through that. I went through loss. I went through betrayal. I went through hard times of financial hardship. I went through that. I understand, and I am with you and there to comfort you. And we can do that for others. And this is one of the reasons that God is a God of all comfort, the Father of compassion. The Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. God meets us there in our suffering. God is with us in our darkest and deepest times. It's not an absence of God, as we've kind of learned through Job, that just because we're facing suffering and times like that, it doesn't mean God is absent from our life. But it means that that He is there with us in our life. The second attribute the second good thing that comes through our suffering and through God being the God of all comfort is found in verse 6. When he says, verse 6, it produces patient endurance. Verse 6, if we are distressed, it is for your comfort and salvation. If we are comforted, it is for your comfort, which produces in you patient endurance of the same sufferings we suffer. That through suffering, through the comfort that God gives us so that we can get through that suffering, we have patient endurance. Some translations say long suffering. And do not underestimate what this does for you. Don't underestimate what this attribute helps you in your life. Just later in the same book, Paul is going to list all the things that he's endured for the cause of Christ. He's endured shipwreck and stonings and beatings and all the things that he went through. And we look at that list and it's like, how did Paul get through that? How did he go through all that stuff? I could never do that. Well, I think Paul did it through one beating at a time, through one whipping at a time, through one suffering, one trial at a time. And through that first one, that gave him the strength with God's help to get through the second one. And with those first two, it helped him get through the third one. That no matter what he went through, he could always rely that God was always with him, and he's always been with him and got him through it, and so he will continue to deliver this. That's what he says in verse 10. He has delivered us from such peril, and he will deliver us. On him we set our hope. Endurance is a critical skill to learn. Patient endurance is critical to learn in our life. You'll never able to accomplish the goals that you want unless you have endurance. If you were ever wanting to run a marathon or do any kind of long distance running, I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you wanted to do that, you couldn't do that without endurance. would give up. You would stop. And as soon as the first mile, you're out of breath and you're wheezing and it seems like you're going to pass out, you will stop at that point if you don't have endurance. This is why when with kind of like helicopter parenting and overprotective parenting is actually bad for the child. Because even though you're trying to save your child from different things that are coming up in his or her life, you're actually not allowing that child to face trials and troubles on their own so they can build the skills and be able to process different things that happen. And what will happen is that eventually that child will leave the protective house, and that child will not have the skills or the ability to cope with disappointment, with heartaches, with trials, with troubles, and all the things that we've talked about. And what God is He's a good parent. He's a good parent for us. He allows us to go through things in this life. He doesn't just prevent anything bad from happening to us, so that we can learn from those things in our life and we can be better people. But He doesn't just leave us on our own accord. He doesn't say, good luck. He doesn't just do anything to help. He's also there for us. And just like any good parent, if something happens, we can always come back to Him. Because God is the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. God is the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. In the past, I don't know, about 6 months or so, I've noticed a trend in the scriptures that I've been studying, where these people who got into way over their head, where they've been in the midst of hard times, they turn to God, and there they find comfort. If you remember a long time ago, when we had the Jonah series, I'm sure you all remember all those lessons. But when we had the Jonah series, and you remember Jonah's prayer, when he's in the depth of the sea and the belly of a fish, he said he got like a seaweed over his head, like a turban, and he's just in the deep of that. And he goes to God in prayer. And by the end of it, he is full of joy and praise, and he feels like he has been delivered. And he's still in the middle of the sea, in the depths of the sea, in the belly of the fish. He hadn't changed, his situation hadn't changed, his life hadn't changed, he was still in those circumstances, but somehow going to God and laying his cares before Him, he found comfort. And if you remember back to when we did, the psalm escapes me at the moment, but it was a psalm of David. It was a psalm of David as he was fleeing Absalom. And he was going, and he had all these fears and all these anxieties, all these troubles, and he gave them over to God, and then in the midst of it, he found comfort. He found resolution. He found like there was something good with the world, that everything would turn out okay, and trust in God. And his situation hadn't changed at all. His life hadn't changed at all. He still had armies chasing him. He still had his son trying to kill him. But when he went to God, he found comfort. And then also in Jesus, when he went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he had all these anxieties, and you could tell from how it was written, he was deeply distressed. And he said his sweat was like great drops of blood. You can tell from that he was full of anxiety about what he was about to do. But he goes to God and he prays to Him and he pours his heart out. And his situation doesn't change at all. He still has to die on the cross, but he's resolute. That anxiety is gone. And somehow he found comfort in God. This is what it means to have the God of all comfort on your side. Life doesn't necessarily need to change. Situations don't need to change because we don't have control over that. But somehow by going to God And having trust in Him, it makes you feel at peace. And we've seen how that situation, it doesn't just stop there, but it produces great things. How through our suffering we can help others, and we can form this chain of those who went through stuff, helping those who are currently going through stuff. And how that helps us to be better people and have endurance. And it also helps us to rely on God and not ourselves. That's what he says in verse 9. He says he talks about the great thing that troubles that he experienced in Asia and how they were under great pressure, and it was far above their ability to endure, just like all the other people that we mentioned. So that we despaired of life itself. It is for certain we're going to die. But notice what he says in verse 9. Indeed, we had felt like we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. Do you think it's good occasionally to get in a point of life in which God just kind of knocks all the props from under you? All the things that we kind of trust in our life. Maybe it's our family, maybe it's our savings account, maybe it's our own health, the feeling of invincibility that it will never take us. And then God just kind of systematically knocks those out of our life. Or maybe it's Satan, or maybe a combination of, or who knows. But those disappear in our life. And you have nothing to turn to, nothing to rely on, and the only thing that you can say is at least we believe in a God that raises from the dead. That if we are destined to die and this is it, that there's hope for tomorrow. Isn't it during those times that you have nothing to rely on? You can't have your savings account or your own strength to rely on. There's nothing you can do about it. Aren't those the times that your faith just increases the most? Where your relationship with God deepens the most? And he says it's during these times, in these times when you turn to God and seek comfort, that you rely on God. And then finally, the fourth thing that we gain from this is what he says in verse 11. After he says he delivered us from the peril in Asia, and he's always there to deliver us. We have set our hope on him. He will continue to deliver us. Verse 11, as you help us by your prayers, the many will give thanks on our behalf for the gracious favor granted us in our answer to prayers of many. That people will give glory and thanks to God for his answered prayer. God provides comfort to his people. And many times he does that through his people. Kind of what we talked about first, that we are to be the people that comforts each other. And God uses us. We invite other people in our discomfort, in our pain, in our struggles. And that they could be there to help us through it by giving prayers or sharing a word of comfort or just being there for us. And that by doing that, when we come up through the struggle and the pain and the things that we're going through, and we come out on the other side, and we are delivered from whatever heartache encloses us, we have a bunch of people to give thanks to God for all. And I think that's an amazing thing. No matter what you're going through or what life may throw at you, you know you have each other and you know you have God. And that even though you may be in the worst kind of situation right now, that God provides comfort to whatever situation you're going through. There's probably about 3 different types of people in this room right now. There's people who are going through really hard times right now. Maybe one of the things I mentioned before, financial, health problems, taking care of someone close to you. You're just going through it right now. And you need help and comfort, and you need to have the people of God rally around you and pray for you and to try to comfort you as best we can. There are those of you that are experiencing grief, but it's secondhand. It's a close friend who's going through these troubles. It's a close family member that is going through these. And so you mourn with those who mourn. You try to comfort the downtrodden. You're there with them, but you're experiencing like this secondhand grief. And then there's those of you where life is great. Things are going great in your life. You don't have any struggles at this moment. And bless you for that. That's great. Enjoy that. That's a gift from God. But use that blessing to help others. So that while you're strong at this time and you feel on top of the world, that you can give that strength to the weak, so that when you go through something hard and terrible and you're down in the depths of despair, they can be strong and help you. And as a church, we work to help each other. Because that's what the church is supposed to do. That's why God gave us each other. We're not meant to conquer the world on our own because we can't do it. We would fail. But with the strength of each other and God who never leaves us, we can endure anything that Satan or the world throws against us. Because we have the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort behind us. If we can help you in any way this morning, if we can provide any support, if we can help you through your spiritual trouble, we really ask you to come see us, come talk to us. Let us know how we can help you in any way as we stand and sing number 490.